Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we're going to talk about do's and don'ts on your first steroid cycle. But before we get into that, I want to reiterate, I'm not a doctor. Anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I am not advising nor condoning you to use any of the things that we talk about whatsoever. So let's talk about some do's and don'ts on your first cycle. Now, before we get into that, the first thing is that your stats need to add up for you to use steroids. What's that mean? Age, height, weight, body fat. If you are too young, just please don't try to fight it, argue it, etc. Look, do what you want, okay? I'm not anybody's dad. But when you're running steroids at 21, 22, 23 years old, there is no reason, there's no smart reason whatsoever to do that. I get these people that tell me, oh, I want my pro card, I want my pro card. Look, good luck making any money doing this and wrecking your life over it. If you happen to be 1 out of 1,000,000 that goes and makes some real money off of this, then great. But the chances are beyond slim. It's not worth wrecking your life over. And I get guys that want to argue with me about it. Look, I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. Okay, I'm going to do videos on it, etc. I'm not going to cover this whole video with that. If that's what you want to do with your life, fine. I'm just not advising it. I'm just not the guy to go to. It's not that I have anything against younger guys. There's a lot of younger guys I'm really friends with, really cool with, have a great amount of respect for, but I'm certainly not going to argue about something that I know already is not wise. And I'm just not going to advise it. If you pay me to coach you, I'm not going to do it. So I just want to make that clear so everybody understands before you write me or get upset with me or anything else. It's nothing personal. It's me looking out for you and trying to protect you. So that, your body fat, I've talked about this using steroids with high body fat. If your body fat's too high, it's more dangerous for you. Not to say that you can't do it. And what about the power lifters? Look, doesn't mean that what they're doing is right. Doesn't mean that it's safe. They don't stand and have press conferences and tell you every little thing that's gone wrong, etc., etc. Okay? They're not announcing it or whatever else. So your body fat should be at least a good position. I always tell people 15% or below, which is what you're going to generally see out there. But if you want my honest opinion, I would say more in the 12 to 13 range. But I know that people want to stretch that and want to complain and get upset and angry. So I would say 15% at least. But if you're getting over that, don't even do it. Just wait till you're in better condition. Steroids are not magic pills. They're not going to put you in that condition. You need to start in good condition. It doesn't have to be excellent, but it needs to be good. Now, getting into your first cycle, the first and foremost thing is don't run multiple compounds on a first cycle. One compound. Look, you're introducing a foreign substance to your body for the first time. All right? Which means you don't run a multitude of things on there. You need to learn how your body responds to one thing and one thing only. I get emails from guys, oh, I'm getting ready to run my first cycle. Test, trend, primo, Winstrol. I'm like, well, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? One compound only. Look, it's not a big secret. I do not believe in oral-only cycles. I don't like it. I don't recommend it. When people write me and ask me, you guys know me by now, you know my responses. I'm not recommending you to do that. I'll do a video on that too, on why that's a bad idea. My recommendation is testosterone only your first cycle. Okay? It's just a good, smart way to ease into this, to learn your body response, to get a feel for what this is all about. All right? Now, you're doing a testosterone only first cycle. You don't want to go crazy. A lot of guys will tell you, oh, you got to have 500. You don't have to have 500 milligrams to make gains. You don't. Look, some people do great on 350. Some people even do good on 250. Some people can go to 500 and not have side effects, and that's great. You always start a little bit lower, and look, you adjust from there. If you want to go higher, go for it. But make sure your body's cool with it first and is handling it well. Your first cycle, you don't know how estrogen prone you are. You don't know how your body's going to tolerate steroids, period. Start at like 300 or 350. If you're 6-7 weeks in and you're feeling great, you're not having any issues, and you want to bump it, bump it. If not, if you feel like don't fix what's not broke, stick with it. But learn your body first. Don't go crazy. Like I said, you start too high, you've already screwed yourself. If you start too low, well, guess what? You can then, progressively move up, and it's going to be a much better experience for you. You don't want to go in there going crazy your first time through and just ruining things. Learn your bodies. Listen, this is a marathon, not a sprint. All right? You're not going to build the Eiffel Tower in one day. All right? This is something that takes time. So let it work itself out. Learn it. Now, you got to learn how estrogen prone you are in a first cycle. My recommendation is, because there are some people that aren't and there's some people that are, but more often than not what I see is more people are a little bit more estrogen sensitive than are not, is to start with aromacin. Now, if you're running 350 milligrams, per week, you may not need 12.5 milligrams every other day, and you might. I know that, like I did, in my cycling times, but I'm more estrogen prone, which doesn't mean you are. But that's where blood work comes into play. Look, before you start a cycle, you do blood work. Why? You've got to have a baseline to see how your body's being affected. Then mid-cycle, you do another panel. Why? So you can see how your body's responding, especially when it comes to estrogen and everything else that needs to be ran over. And I've done blood work videos. I'm telling you about the tests and etc. And we'll do more covering that also. Obviously, don't have time to do that all in this video. And then obviously you do post-cycle blood work 4 to 6 weeks after you finish your post-cycle, so you can see how you're recovering. But blood work. Never go on how you feel, because how you feel may not be accurate as to what your blood work's showing. That's not always accurate, not even close. I've seen people, here's an example. A lot of the same side effects you get with high estrogen, you can get with low estrogen. And I've seen people be so far off base with their assessment on what they thought was wrong, and then actually cause another problem by overdoing it on ancillaries that they were taking. Ancillaries being like supports, like your anti-estrogens, for example. So make sure that you do that. Now, what's even more important, because post-cycle therapy is the most important part of any cycle, is understanding. I can't tell you how many people I get that write me. They go, I'm almost done with my cycle, and I need to know what to run for post-cycle. Oh boy, do I ever just cringe at the thought. I cringe right now even bringing that up. Don't start a cycle until you know exactly how to run it. You've studied, you know what your post-cycle is, what you're going to run on it, how long you're going to run it, etc. And don't start your cycle unless you have every single thing on hand. Everything. Don't start it if you're missing anything. You know how many guys that I get me right, well, my source disappeared, now I don't know what to do, I'm panicked, my post-cycle starts in 3 days and I don't have anything. Don't be that person. Have every single thing on hand before you start. Just for your own good. You don't want to be put in those situations that I see people put in and start panicking and then, possibly causing yourself even more problems. Don't put yourself in that position. Just be smart. So, look, your stats first, age, height, weight, body fat, have those in line. If you're way too light, for example, you don't want to use steroids either. Well, but how am I going to gain weight? Well, you got to start eating more. If you use steroids and you're too undersized, guess what's going to happen? You're going to gain weight way too fast, okay? You're going to cause all sorts of problems for your bones, ligaments, tendons, etc. And you're going to set yourself up for having continuous, nagging BS injuries that are going to drive you crazy and take away from everything that you're doing. You don't want to do that. And obviously, if you're overweight, well, I've covered that. You don't want to do that either. So, if you're underweight, you need to work on your diet first and your training, your consistency, and get that up. I get people, well, I can't gain weight. Well, I can't. Look, some people have it way harder than others when it turns to gaining weight. I get it. I hate it when people say, well, I don't buy it. Look, I know it's harder, but there's ways, okay? Then you got to figure them out. There's different sorts of foods that you're going to have to try to incorporate, different amounts of calories, different kinds of macro breakdowns. That's where, you've got to hire somebody if you can't figure it out, a nutritionist that can coach you or a coach. All right? But that has to be done first. You need to do all of these things first before you jump into this, everybody. And then, obviously, don't be running Tren on a first cycle. I've talked about steroids that are not for beginners, so go back and watch that video that I did. But like I said, first cycle test only. So there's really no other, well, what about this? What about this? Test only. Learn your body. I explain exactly why. So that's the do's and don'ts on your first cycle. I get so concerned, guys. You know, it's not that I'm being a jerk. It's not that, oh, he's this, he's that. It's because I'm trying to look out for you guys, because I see so many darn people that are messed up and made so many mistakes. If you only knew the amount of people that I see daily that have so many issues because of doing things wrong like this that I'm talking about, it would blow your mind. And I don't want that for people. I'm trying, the reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to prevent it. I'm trying to save you this trouble that I see people going through, because it's all easily avoidable. And if I can help people to avoid that, I'm going to do it. So it is what it is. You know, follow it if you like, but I'm telling you, trust me on this one. I promise you. So that being said, www.icearms.com/forums. I'm also in the Elite Fitness Forum as well as the Evolutionary Forum. Dylan@icearms.com is where you can email me with all questions and comments. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli signing off.